Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are gathered for a conversation that may feel uncomfortably close to home. Picture this: a man in his late 70s, a model of discipline, who has walked every single day for 30 years. He is the kind of person we all aspire to be: steady, reliable, and, we assume, invincible. Yet, in a single, unremarkable moment, he slips and falls. That one fall, that 1 second, becomes the dividing line between a life of independence and a sudden, irreversible decline. You might not survive such a moment. I have seen it happen, not once, but many times, right on my own operating table. The myth that walking is enough is not just misleading, it can be deadly. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. As always, I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. Share your location and local time in the comments below. Now, turn off the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for a soft noise. And let's begin our journey tonight. Let me take you back to yesterday. Another patient, another surgery, another life lost. Not to a rare disease, but to a single, preventable fall. The man was 78, a GI man, as he called himself, proud of his daily walks. He believed, as so many do, that walking alone would keep him safe from the ravages of age. But the truth is, the body is a cunning saboteur. Every year after 60, it quietly dissolves 1 to 2% of your muscle mass, your balance, once as reliable as a metronome, begins to falter. Your bones, those silent pillars, become hollowed out like old sponges, and all the walking in the world cannot stop this slow-motion betrayal. Here's a piece of wisdom I've learned in my 60 years as a physician. The most dangerous thing about aging is not what you see in the mirror, but what you cannot see at all. The decline is silent, invisible, and for most, completely unexpected. I have watched patients, strong, proud, independent, reduced to fear and confusion after a single fall. The statistics are chilling. For those over 70, half will never walk again after a serious fall. 1 in 3 will not survive the year, and almost all of them in their final days. Ask the same question: why me? I walked every day. Let's pause for a moment of strange trivia. Did you know that flamingos, those masters of balance, can sleep standing on one leg for hours? Humans, on the other hand, lose the ability to stand on one leg for even 10 seconds as they age. It's a small, almost comical detail, but it's also a warning. Balance is not a given. It is a skill that must be trained, or it will vanish. There is, of course, a debate raging in the academic world. Some experts argue that walking is the perfect exercise for the elderly, citing its low impact and accessibility. Others, myself included, see walking as only the beginning, a warm-up, not the main event. The truth, as always, is more complicated. Walking is good for the heart, yes, but it does little for the muscles that keep you upright. the nerves that keep you steady, or the bones that keep you whole. I am 88 years old, still performing surgeries, still lifting my 15-kilogram great-grandson every morning. I have never once fallen in the bathroom. My secret? I never relied on walking alone. I trained my body in ways that walking simply cannot provide. And tonight, I want to share that secret with you. Not as a doctor, but as someone who has seen too many lives cut short by a single, preventable mistake. So, as you listen, let the gentle hum of the fan and the darkness of your room remind you, the most important changes in life are often the ones no one else can see. And sometimes, the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves. The unseen decline, muscles, balance, and bones. Let's step quietly into the world beneath your skin, where the real drama of aging unfolds. You may not feel it, but every year after 60, your muscles are quietly melting away. 1%, sometimes 2%, vanishing without a sound. It's like a slow leak in a tire. You don't notice until you're stranded on the side of the road. The mirror shows you wrinkles and gray hair, but it hides the more sinister changes: atrophy, imbalance, and the hollowing of your bones. I remember a patient, Mrs. Park, 76 years old, who came to me after a minor slip in her bathroom. She had walked every morning for years, rain or shine. Yet, that one fall left her with a fractured hip and 3 months in a hospital bed. "But I walked every day," she whispered, as if the universe had broken a promise. The truth is, walking alone cannot stop the slow erosion of muscle and bone. It's like watering a plant, but never giving it sunlight. Something essential is missing. Here's a strange fact. Astronauts, after just a few weeks in zero gravity, lose muscle and bone at a rate that would terrify any earthbound senior. NASA scientists have spent decades studying how to reverse this process, and their answer is always the same: resistance, not just movement, is the key. If you want to keep your body from collapsing in on itself, you must challenge it, not just stroll through the motions. There's a lively debate among gerontologists about what really causes the most harm in old age. Is it the loss of muscle, the decline in balance, or the thinning of bones? Some say sarcopenia, the technical term for muscle loss, is the silent killer, leading to frailty and falls. Others argue that osteoporosis, the gradual weakening of bones, is the real villain. And then there are those who point to the nervous system, noting that the loss of proprioception, the body's sense of its own position, turns every step into a gamble. But here's the wisdom I've gathered from decades at the bedside. It's not one thing, but the combination. That makes aging so treacherous. Muscles, bones, nerves, and balance are like the legs of a table. Lose one, and the whole structure wobbles. Lose two, and you're in real danger. That's why walking, which mostly works your heart and a few leg muscles, is not enough. It's like tightening one screw on a wobbly table and hoping it will stand. Let's talk about balance for a moment. When you were young, you could probably stand on one foot while brushing your teeth, maybe even hop around the room for fun. Now, try it. If you can't hold it for 10 seconds, you're not alone. Most people over 70 can't. And yet, balance is the single most important predictor of whether you'll live independently or end up in a nursing home. It's not just about avoiding falls. It's about confidence, freedom, and dignity. And what about bones? They're not just static supports. They're living tissue, constantly being broken down and rebuilt. But as you age, the rebuilding slows and the breakdown speeds up. Your bones become porous, fragile, and prone to shattering from the smallest impact. You might not notice until you sneeze and crack a rib, or step off a curb and break a hip. Here's a marginal tidbit. In some cultures, elders are revered for their wisdom, but in others, they're quietly sidelined, their frailty seen as a burden. The way we treat our aging bodies is a reflection of how we value age itself. Do we invest in maintenance, or do we simply wait for the inevitable breakdown? There's a persistent myth that if you just keep moving, you'll stay young. But movement without challenge is like reading the same book over and over. You never learn anything new. Your body needs novelty, resistance, and a little bit of stress to grow stronger. That's why, in my practice, I never let my patients settle for walking alone. I prescribe exercises that challenge balance, build muscle, and strengthen bones. And yet, there are those who argue that too much exercise can be dangerous for the elderly. They worry about heart attacks, joint injuries, and the risk of overexertion. It's a valid concern, but in my experience, the far greater danger is doing too little, not too much. The body is remarkably adaptable, even in old age. I've seen 90-year-olds double their muscle mass in 6 months with the right program. So, as you sit in the gentle darkness, listening to the hum of your fan, ask yourself, what's happening beneath your skin right now? Are you quietly growing weaker? Or are you taking steps, real, challenging steps, to stay strong? The answer may determine not just how long you live, but how well you live. Let's move from the shadows of decline into the light of possibility. If you've been listening closely, you already know that walking alone is not enough. So, what should you do instead? Over the decades, I have distilled my advice into 4 essential exercises. Simple, powerful, and, most importantly, proven to work for people of all ages, even those who have never set foot in a gym. These are the 4 pillars that can hold up the table of your independence, no matter how many birthdays you've celebrated. First, let's talk about balance, the most basic, yet most overlooked. Skill in aging. I always start my patients with the one-leg stand. It's as simple as it sounds. Stand near a sturdy chair or a wall. Lift one foot and try to hold your balance for 10 seconds. If you wobble, that's fine. If you need to hold on, that's fine too. The point is to challenge your body's sense of equilibrium. Over time, you'll find yourself steadier, more confident, and less likely to end up on the floor. For a little extra challenge, try closing your eyes. Suddenly, your body has to rely on muscles and nerves that have been napping for years. It's like waking up a sleepy security guard in your nervous system. Here's a strange but true fact. In Japan, some senior centers have balance competitions where elders compete to see who can stand on one leg the longest, the record over 5 minutes. It's a reminder that balance is not just a physical skill, but a source of pride and even a little friendly rivalry. Now, the academic debate. Some experts argue that balance training is less important than strength training, especially for those already frail. Others, myself included, believe that balance is the foundation. Without it, all the muscle in the world won't keep you upright. The truth is, you need both, but balance is where you should begin. Second, we have strength, or as I like to call it, muscle insurance. The best exercise? The humble chair squat. Sit down in a sturdy chair, then stand up without using your hands. Do this 10 times, 3 times a day. If that's too hard, start with 5, or use a higher chair. The goal is to wake up your thighs and hips, the muscles that lift you from the toilet, help you climb stairs, and keep you moving through life. If you want to add a little flair, grab a water bottle or a light dumbbell and do some bicep curls while you're at it. Your arms will thank you the next time you need to carry groceries or, in my case, a squirming great-grandchild. Here's a bit of wisdom. Strength is the currency of independence. Lose it, and you start paying for help with every little task. Keep it, and you buy yourself years of freedom. For the marginally curious, did you know that in some Scandinavian countries, there are government-sponsored muscle schools for seniors? They meet in community centers, lift light weights, and share stories. The result? Lower healthcare costs, and more importantly, happier, more active elders. The debate here is whether resistance training is safe for the very old or very frail. Some worry about injuries, but the evidence is clear. With proper supervision and gradual progression, even 90-year-olds can safely build muscle. The real danger is inaction. Third, let's stretch. Literally. Flexibility is the oil in your joints. The difference between moving like a rusty gate and gliding like a well-tuned machine. I recommend simple stretches. Turn your head gently side to side. Roll your shoulders. Reach for your toes or your knees, if that's as far as you go. Hold each stretch for 15 to 30 seconds. Breathing slowly. Do this while watching TV, waiting for the kettle to boil, or anytime you remember. Flexibility keeps you limber, reduces pain, and makes every movement easier. Here's a quirky tidbit. In India, some elders practice yoga well into their 90s, performing poses that would make a teenager wince. Their secret? Consistency, not intensity. The academic debate. Some say stretching is overrated, that it doesn't prevent injury or improve performance. Others argue it's essential for comfort and mobility. My view? If it feels good and keeps you moving, it's worth your time. Finally, we come to aerobic exercise, the heart of the matter. Quite literally, walking, swimming, cycling, anything that gets your heart beating a little faster. Aim for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. If that sounds daunting, break it into 10-minute chunks. The key is to move with purpose, not just amble along. Swing your arms, pick up the pace, feel your breath quicken. If you're in a pool, try water aerobics or just walk laps. If you have a stationary bike, pedal while you watch your favorite show. Here's a fun fact. In some parts of Italy, Elders gather in the town square every morning for group walks, chatting and laughing as they go. It's exercise, social hour, and therapy all in one. The debate here is about intensity. Some say any movement is good movement, while others insist on a certain heart rate. My advice? Do what feels challenging but safe. If you can talk but not sing, you're in the right zone. So, there you have it. Balance, strength, flexibility, and aerobic exercise. The 4 keys to a longer, stronger life. Start with one, add another when you're ready. And remember, it's never too late. I've seen 90-year-olds transform their bodies and their lives with these simple steps. The only thing you need is the willingness to begin. Now, let's talk about the art of safe movement, because as much as I love a good story about transformation, I've also seen too many cautionary tales. Exercise, like medicine, is only as good as the way it's used. Done right, it's a miracle. Done wrong, it can be a disaster. I've watched patients, eager to reclaim their youth, leap into new routines only to end up with sprained ankles, aching backs, or worse, a trip to the emergency room. So tonight, let's slow down and learn how to move safely, with wisdom and care. First, the golden rule: start slow, progress gradually. I know, it sounds boring, but your body is not a machine you can just switch on. It's more like an old car that needs to warm up before hitting the highway. If you haven't exercised in years, don't try to do everything at once. Begin with 5 minutes, or even 2. Add a minute each week. Your muscles, joints, and heart will thank you. And if you feel pain, sharp, stabbing, or persistent, stop immediately. There's a difference between the pleasant ache of effort and the warning siren of injury. Here's a bit of wisdom from my own life. I never start my morning routine without a gentle warm-up. Even now, at 88, I spend a few minutes stretching, rolling my shoulders, and taking deep breaths before I lift my great-grandson or scrub in for surgery. It's a ritual, a way of telling my body, we're about to do something important. Let's get ready. If you make this a habit, you'll avoid most of the common pitfalls that sideline so many would-be exercisers. Now, a strange but true tidbit. In Finland, there's a national Fall Prevention Day every year, where people of all ages practice safe movement drills in public squares. They even have obstacle courses for seniors, complete with fake banana peels and wobbly platforms. It's a little silly, but it works. Fall rates have dropped, and people have fun while learning to protect themselves. Let's address a public debate that never seems to end. Should older adults avoid certain exercises altogether? Some experts say yes. Banish squats, avoid lunges, never lift anything heavier than a purse. Others, myself included, believe that with proper technique and supervision, almost any movement can be made safe. The real danger is not the exercise itself, but the lack of preparation and awareness. For example, if you're doing chair squats, make sure the chair is stable and at the right height. If you're practicing balance, always have something sturdy nearby to grab. And never, ever do new exercises alone if you're at risk of falling. Let's get practical. For balance exercises, always start near a wall or a heavy chair. If you feel dizzy, sit down right away. Remove any clutter or sharp objects from the area. If you're feeling adventurous and want to try standing on one leg with your eyes closed, do it for just a few seconds at first. You'll be surprised how quickly your body adapts, but don't rush it. For strength training, use light weights or even water bottles at first. Focus on slow, controlled movements. If you're doing chair squats, keep your knees behind your toes and your feet flat on the floor. If you have knee pain, use a higher chair or do fewer repetitions, and always breathe. Never hold your breath while lifting. It's a small thing, but it can make a big difference, especially if you have high blood pressure. Flexibility. Work should feel gentle, never painful. If you're stretching your neck or back, move slowly and stop if you feel any sharpness. Hold each stretch for 15 to 30 seconds and don't bounce. If you're stiff in the morning, try a warm shower first to loosen up your muscles. And remember, flexibility is not a competition. You're not trying to touch your toes like a gymnast, just to move a little more freely each day. Aerobic exercise comes with its own set of rules. Choose flat, even surfaces for walking. Wear shoes with good support and non-slip soles. If it's icy or rainy outside, stay indoors and march in place or use a stationary bike. Listen to your body. If you're too breathless to talk, slow down. If you feel chest pain, dizziness, or severe fatigue, stop and rest. And never exercise right after a big meal. Give your body time to digest. Here's a marginal fact. Some medications, especially those for blood pressure or mood, can affect your balance and coordination. Always check with your doctor before starting a new exercise routine, especially if you're on multiple prescriptions. It's a small step that can prevent big problems. The debate continues. Should you exercise every day? Or is it better to rest between sessions? The answer, as usual, is it depends. For most people, a mix of activity and rest works best. Muscles need time to recover, especially after strength training. But gentle movement, like stretching or walking, can be done daily. Listen to your body, and don't be afraid to take a day off if you're feeling sore or tired. Let's end this section with a little humor. I once had a patient who insisted on doing push-ups every morning, even though he could barely get out of bed. When I asked him why, he said, "Doc, I want to be ready in case I have to fight off a burglar." I told him, "If a burglar comes, just throw your walker at him and call for help." We both laughed. But the point stuck. Exercise should make you feel safer, not more anxious. So, as you move forward, remember, safety first, progress second. The goal is not to become a superhero overnight, but to build a body that serves you well for years to come. Take it slow, pay attention, and celebrate every small victory. Your future self will thank you. Let's step into the warm light of real stories, because nothing is more convincing than the quiet triumphs of ordinary people. Over the years, I've watched countless patients transform not just their bodies, but their entire outlook on life, simply by embracing the 4 essential exercises. These are not superhumans or fitness fanatics. They are your neighbors, your relatives, perhaps even you, listening in the dark tonight. Take Mrs. Kim, for example. At 87, she had resigned herself to a life with a cane after a hip fracture. She shuffled into my office, her spirit as bent as her back. I suppose this is just how it is now. She sighed, but I saw a spark in her eyes, a stubbornness that refused to be extinguished. We started with the basics: balance exercises by her kitchen counter, gentle squats using her favorite armchair, stretches during her favorite soap opera, and short walks around her apartment. 6 months later, she returned, cane in hand, but only to show me she no longer needed it. I walk to the market now, doctor. I even dance with my granddaughter. Her story is not unique, but it is precious. Here's a piece of wisdom I've learned. The body is astonishingly forgiving. Even after years of neglect, it responds to care and challenge. I've seen men and women in their 90s regain strength, balance, and confidence they thought were lost forever. The key is not perfection, but persistence. Now, for something a little odd, in a small town in Italy, there's a group of elders who meet every morning in the piazza, not for coffee, but for a group exercise session led by a retired circus performer. They juggle scarves, balance on one foot, and laugh until their sides ache. The townspeople call them the acrobats. Their secret isn't just movement, but joy. They've turned exercise into a celebration, not a chore. Of course, there's an ongoing debate in the medical world about the role of social connection in physical health. Some researchers argue that community and companionship are as important as the exercises themselves. Others insist that the physical benefits come first, and the social perks are just a bonus. I say, why not both? When you move together, you heal together. I've seen lonely patients blossom when they join a walking group or a senior yoga class. The laughter, the shared struggles, the gentle encouragement, they all add up to something greater than the sum of their parts. Let's not forget Mr. Park, a 76-year-old with diabetes and high blood pressure. He was skeptical at first. I'm too old for this, doc. But we started small. A few minutes of chair squats, some gentle arm curls with water bottles, and a daily walk around his block. Within a year, his medication was cut in half, and he could play with his grandchildren without getting winded. I feel like I got a second chance, he told me, eyes shining with pride. And then there's Mrs. Lee, who at 92 was facing the early stages of dementia. Her family was preparing for the worst, but she insisted on trying the exercises I recommended. A year later, her memory had improved, and she was living independently, even teaching her friends the routines. I have a reason to get up every morning, she said. I'm the exercise coach now. Here's a marginal fact. In some cultures, elders are seen as the keepers of tradition, the storytellers, the wise ones. In others, they're quietly pushed aside, their frailty hidden away. But I've noticed that in places where elders are active and engaged, physically, mentally, and socially, they live longer, happier lives. It's not just about the body, it's about the spirit. There's a public debate about whether these transformations are typical or just outliers. Some skeptics argue that only the most motivated or genetically blessed can achieve such results. But I've seen too many so-called hopeless cases turn their lives around to believe that. The real secret is consistency, not talent. Start small, keep going, and celebrate every little victory. Let me share a little joke from one of my patients, Mr. Choi, who started exercising at 85. "Doc," he said, "I'm not trying to look like a movie star. I just want to tie my own shoes without falling over." We both laughed. But that's the heart of it, isn't it? Independence, dignity, and the simple joys of daily life. So, as you listen tonight, remember, these stories are not fairy tales. They are proof that change is possible at any age. The path may be slow, and there will be setbacks, but every step forward is a victory. Whether you're starting from a place of strength or struggle, you have the power to write your own story, one movement, one day at a time. Let's talk about the real secret behind every transformation you've just heard. Consistency. It's not the intensity of your effort, nor the complexity of your routine, but the simple act of showing up day after day. That changes everything. I've seen it in my patients, and I've lived it myself. The question is, how do you make exercise a habit, especially if you've never been the active type, or if you're starting late in life? First, let's be honest. Motivation is a fickle friend. Some mornings, you'll wake up ready to conquer the world. Other days, you'll want to stay in bed and let the world conquer you. That's normal. The trick is to build routines that don't rely on willpower alone. I always tell my patients, make exercise as automatic as brushing your teeth. Attach it to something you already do, after your morning coffee, before your favorite TV show, or right after you feed the cat. The less you have to think about it, the more likely you are to do it. Here's a piece of wisdom from my own life. I keep a small calendar on my kitchen wall. Every day I exercise, I draw a big, satisfying circle around the date. It's a tiny ritual, but seeing those circles line up gives me a sense of accomplishment. It's proof that I'm keeping a promise to myself. Try it. There's something oddly motivating about not wanting to break the chain. Now, for a strange but true tidbit. In Sweden, some retirement homes have exercise alarms that go off every hour. Residents stop what they're doing, stand up, and do a minute of movement, marching in place, stretching, or even a little dance. It sounds silly, but it works. The regular interruptions keep everyone limber and, more importantly, make movement a normal part of the day. There's a lively debate among behavioral scientists about the best way to form habits. Some say you need a reward, like a piece of chocolate or a favorite song, after every workout. Others argue that the habit itself becomes its own reward over time. I say, why not both? Celebrate your efforts, especially in the beginning. Give yourself a treat, a compliment, or a few minutes of guilt-free relaxation after you move. Over time, The real reward will be how much better you feel. Let's get practical. If you're new to exercise, start with just 5 minutes a day. Pick one movement. Maybe balance on one leg while brushing your teeth, or do a few chair squats before breakfast. Once that feels easy, add another minute or another exercise. The goal is to make movement so easy and so routine that you barely notice you're doing it. If you miss a day, don't beat yourself up. Just start again the next day. Progress is not a straight line. It's a gentle curve, with plenty of bumps along the way. Here's another tip. Find a partner, whether it's a spouse, a friend, or even a neighbor you barely know. Having someone to move with makes everything easier. You'll encourage each other, share a few laughs, and maybe even develop a little friendly competition. I've seen entire apartment buildings turn into mini fitness communities, with residents meeting in the hallway for group stretches or walks. The social connection is just as important as the exercise itself. Of course, there's a debate about whether group exercise is better than solo routines. Some people thrive in a crowd, while others prefer the peace of solitary movement. My advice? Try both. See what feels best for you. The only rule is to keep moving. Let's not forget the power of small rewards. I once had a patient who promised herself a new book every month she stuck to her routine. Another treated herself to a favorite dessert on Sundays, but only if she'd exercised all week. These little incentives can make a big difference, especially in the early days when the habit is still fragile. Here's a marginal fact. In some cultures, elders are celebrated for their daily rituals, tea ceremonies, morning walks, evening dances. These routines are more than just habits. They're anchors, giving structure and meaning to the day. You can create your own anchor, no matter your age or background. And finally, remember this: the hardest part is starting. Once you've taken that first step, every other step becomes a little easier. Don't wait for the perfect moment, the perfect weather, or the perfect mood. Start now. With whatever you have, wherever you are, your future self will thank you. Let me end with a little joke from my own life. My great-grandson once asked, "Grandpa, why do you exercise every day?" I told him, "So I can keep up with you." "Of course." He laughed. And so did I, but it's true. The real reason to build these habits is not just to add years to your life, but life to your years. So tonight, as you listen in the quiet, think about one small change you can make tomorrow. Maybe it's a walk around the block, a few stretches before bed, or a promise to yourself to try something new. Whatever it is, make it yours. The journey to strength and independence begins with a single, ordinary day, just like tomorrow. Let's bring our journey to a gentle close with a soft reflection on what it means to begin again. No matter your age, your aches, or your doubts. If you've listened this far, you already know that the path to a stronger, more independent life is not paved with grand gestures or overnight miracles. It's built, quietly and patiently, on the smallest of choices. Standing up when you'd rather sit. Stretching when you'd rather slump. Taking a step forward when the world tells you to slow down. There's a certain beauty in starting small. I've seen it in the trembling hands of a 90-year-old tying her shoes for the first time in years, in the shy smile of a man who thought he'd never walk without help again. These moments are not just victories of the body, but of the spirit. They remind us that every day is a new chance to rewrite the story of our lives, no matter how many chapters have already been written. Here's a piece of wisdom I've gathered from decades of watching people change. The most important step is always the next one. Not the first, not the last, but the one you choose to take today. It doesn't matter if it's big or small, fast or slow. What matters is that you keep moving, keep trying, keep believing that something better is possible. Let me share a strange but true tidbit. In Okinawa, Japan, home to some of the world's longest-lived people, elders have a word, ikigai, which means a reason to get up in the morning. For some, it's gardening. For others, it's caring for grandchildren, or simply sharing tea with friends. For many, it's the daily ritual of movement, stretching, walking, dancing, or even just standing in the sun. Their secret isn't just in what they do, but in why they do it. Purpose, it turns out, is the best medicine of all. There's an ongoing debate among philosophers and scientists about what truly gives life meaning in old age. Is it health, independence, connection, or something deeper, more mysterious? I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I do know this. When you move your body, you move your mind and your heart as well. You remind yourself that you are still here, still capable, still worthy of care and attention. As you sit in the quiet tonight, maybe with the fan humming softly and the world outside fading into darkness, I invite you to imagine your own gentle path forward. What would it look like to begin again? Not with fear or regret, but with curiosity and hope. Maybe you'll start with a single exercise tomorrow, or maybe you'll simply stand a little taller as you brush your teeth. Whatever you choose, let it be enough. Here's a little joke to end our night. A patient once told me, "Doc, I started exercising so I could live to 100. Now, I just want to live long enough to finish this week's crossword puzzle." We both laughed. But there's a truth in that. Sometimes, the best reason to keep going is simply to enjoy the small pleasures of each day. So, as you drift toward sleep, remember, you are not alone on this journey. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a step toward a life filled with more strength, more freedom, and more joy. The gentle path forward is always open, waiting for you to begin. As we come to the end of our time together tonight, let's slow everything down. Let the words settle softly, like dust in a sunbeam, and allow the lessons to linger in the quiet spaces of your mind. We have traveled through stories of loss and hope, explored the hidden workings of the aging body, and uncovered the simple, powerful truth that movement, done wisely and consistently, can change the course of your life at any age. Remember, the journey to strength and independence is not a sprint, nor is it a lonely road. It is a gentle, winding path, sometimes uphill, sometimes smooth, but always worth walking. The 4 essential exercises, balance, strength, flexibility, and aerobic movement, are not just routines, but invitations to reclaim your confidence, your dignity, and your joy. The wisdom of elders, the laughter of friends, the small victories of each day, these are the treasures waiting for you along the way. If you take nothing else from tonight, let it be this: you are never too old, too tired, or too late to begin again. The smallest step, taken with care and intention, can open doors you thought were closed forever. Let your habits be gentle, your progress patient, and your spirit kind to itself. Celebrate every circle on your calendar, every moment of movement, every breath that reminds you you are still here, still capable, still writing your story. So, as you turn off your screen and let the darkness settle around you, know that you are part of a quiet revolution, one that values strength, resilience, and the beauty of growing older with purpose. May you find your own ikigai, your reason to rise each morning, and may your days be filled with movement, laughter, and peace. Good night, and thank you for sharing this journey with me. End of the script. Good night.